Hello, and welcome to the Kelcast, the Hearthstone Arena podcast where we try to get better without cursing. I'm Keldar, a longtime Infinite Arena leaderboard player and streamer on Twitch, and joining me as my co-host is another Infinite Arena player, Kellen Abel. If you want to find us on social media, you can search Keldar on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. That's Keldar. You can also search the Kelcast, you can Google the Google the Kelcast and find us that way, and you can either find us on YouTube or on any podcast medium you like. So what's up for
honestly
this week,
we're
Kellen?
everywhere. We're everywhere. You can just look up Kelcast on anything you can possibly find. You could just use a Twitter search bar. It doesn't matter. You'll find us. We're out there. We're available.
Yeah. And by the way, please also take the time, if you're listening and have been listening, if you're a new subscriber or old subscriber, please take the time, if the version of it you're listening to gives you the option to leave comments, likes, comments, ratings. Those kind of things are actually really helpful for people to find our podcast. So just by literally clicking a rating of 5 or whatever you want to give it, it'll help us.
Yeah. If you even if it's just like a comment that says, we really wish Coach Kellen was a horse veterinarian, that'd be fine. It gives us more clout. We need that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, this week we are talking about, we're actually not talking about anything specific. We're going to have a little conversation about what we think is going on in the meta right now, how much fun we're having with the specific classes that we've been playing. We're going to go over some deck lists that we've had that have been successful, and we're going to talk about some secret strategies that aren't really available all the time, but fun little ways to build theme decks in the current sets. So it's cool. More like a little sampling of a bunch of stuff this week.
Yeah, sounds fun. Yeah. So where are we going to start, Kellen?
All right. Well, I want to start with my love of Replicatatron, and so I know, and we've talked about this on pods before, but Replicatatron is more frequently seen right now due to something I'm going to mention in a minute.
Yes.
Epics are available. You can find a lot more epics than you used to be able to find, and HS Replay supports that, and Kel's going to get into that in a second. But what that's done for me is it's allowed me to finally explore Replicatatron, which is something that Veritas and Judge have talked about, and Veritas, I know, loves it because he just played it against me in a 12-win run earlier, I think like 2 days ago. But he just got number 1 on the leaderboard with his love of Replicatatron. Number 1 on the leaderboard. He should have gotten it a couple leaderboards ago. Well, it was more than that, but he got shafted by some weird splitting. It doesn't matter. In any case, he's first finally, and he kind of deserved it. Judge is also up there. The leaderboard just came out. There's a ton of people on it. It's Rusko, now named Master Kenobi, or Ben, I don't remember. But we've known him as Rusko for many years, and now he's Master Ben Kenobi. There's also Judge and Dreads and just all the people that you expect to see on the leaderboard. They're all there. Kel, are you on the leaderboard?
I am on the leaderboard this time. I'm number 52, I believe. But I had a really fun month for me, because again, I had a streak of 20 infinite runs. I actually think my leaderboard spot should be actually significantly higher, and they've talked about reposting it. We'll see if I'm right. For one thing, now this is something I've talked about before, like for pressure on myself and playing better, I actually didn't track any of my runs. The only thing I was tracking, just because it was so obvious, was that, holy crap, it's been 7 runs and they've all been over 7, and I just kept watching it till it got to 20. Now, unfortunately, I had a flame out of like 3 runs that were like less than 4 or something after that, which is probably why it dropped so much. But anyway, it was still one of the hottest streaks I've ever had in my life. It was just really fun. I just had a lot of fun. It's nice to finally, build your gold up a lot, and, have a good little streak was fun. But yeah, there's lots of great people on the leaderboard.
So Veritas being number 1, one of the things that took him there is his love of Replicatatron. That's the 4-mana 3/3 mech that copies turns a random minion to it into a copy of itself. So there's a lot of ways to use this. I'm just going to go on a short little a description of the ways I've used it since I've started picking it up and playing it more often. The most common thing I do with it is make a bad minion into a 3. Pretty much the main way to go. I think I used second copy of Sneaky Delinquent. I've used Pen Flingers. I've used tokens from Treant tokens. I've just all sorts of little things. And the main goal there is just to make small buffs, because if you're giving a minion +2/+1, now Replicatatron has already paid for itself in terms of its costs and abilities. But it also sets up the future. It's harder for your opponent to stop you from giving a random minion +2/+2 or +1/+2 at the end of your turn.
Right.
So if you've ever played with there's a priest minion. It's a 3-mana 2/2 at the something dragon something. I don't know. It's a 3-mana 2/2 at the end of your turn. Give a friendly minion +2/+2. Replicatatron plays out a lot like that, but you have to do a little more prep, and it's harder to remove because you have a second copy of it once it does its thing. Some really fun ways to play with it that I've enjoyed are buff cards, just generic buff cards. So things like Fungal Mancer are absolutely OP with it, because let's say you have 2 Replicatatrons from the last turn. You put that Fungal Mancer between them. Now you're going to have 3 5/5s at the end of your turn, because the Replicatatron will turn their 5/5s, and now they turn your Fungal into a 5. That's the little things like that. You can also use the not Fallen Sun Cleric, but the Shambling Horror. Is that right? The 2-mana 2/1 Wriggling Horror. I'm so bad at card names, Kel.
That's okay.
Give 2 adjacent minions +1/+1. So that's a fun way to use it. And then the one that really got me, and actually I only know about this because Veritas played it in a game against me in Arena. Guardian Og Merchant is fantastic with Replicatatron. It deals a damage to it, so it makes the Replicatatron smaller. But that Divine Shield, you're basically giving 2 minions Divine Shield when you cast Guardian Og Merchant on it, as well as producing a minion that could be turned into a Replicatatron. So just that combo. If you were to spend 5 mana for 2 3/2 Divine Shields, I'd be happy to do that. That's a great deal. I would always play that card. And that's a card that not only does that, but sets you up for the future. I have had so much fun doing all the little tricks that I've heard Veritas and Judge talking about with Replicatatron. Now that I've experienced it myself and had time to use it, just an absolute joy. And I strongly recommend Shot, since it's so much more available right now.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I mean,
what have you been playing? Have you been playing any classes specifically? You've been playing. What have you been playing? Strategies?
I know it's like they even tuned it down in the micro adjustments, but man, I've gotten so many 12s with Demon Hunter over the last 2 months. I actually think I actually kind of did a little bit. Now this isn't perfect, but I'm absolutely certain that my average with Demon Hunter for like the last 2 to 3 months is over 10. Like, it's just bonkers. I think I did. During my streak, I think I did 3 Demon Hunter 12s in a row.
You did. It was at least 2, and I don't know.
No, there was definitely 3, and there was a third one.
You had a third one.
And I just did a 12-0 today. I mean, it's just, the class just feels, and now with this whole thing, we're going to talk about this epic thing. And I don't know if I guess this was on purpose by Blizzard, but they didn't, I don't know if they didn't communicate it or if it's some kind of bug. I'm not 1,000% sure. But right now, there's no doubt that epics show up as much as, if you just watch your drafts and like count the amount of epics, it's crazy. And if you look at the data, and if you compare epic cards up against common cards, there's many times where if it's a good epic card up against even a good common card, the epic card is seen more often, over and over again in decks. So, but it actually changes the strategy. So for instance, I'll give you a good one right now. Guardian. Oh shoot, I'm not good at names either. The Druid spell, the 8 mana one that pulls out 2 5 or less beasts with rush. Guardian animals.
Yes, Guardian animals.
Okay, so right now that is actually a legitimate strategy to draft into. Like, and the thing is, you can draft into it before you even find it.
Yep.
And like for instance, that, and also Primordial Protector is really good. So a lot of times spells, like I like to take things like Recycle. Cards that they're cards that maybe you wouldn't always look at. I like to take cards. I like to build around that card because you're going to see it in a lot of your runs.
Well, speaking of that, I think that actually makes a lot more sense, because a lot of the decks have been theme decks or strategically built around one thing. Guardian Animals is one I've done myself with a lot of. I had 2 Stoneskin Basilisks and a Stranglethorn Tiger or something, and it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. I've done the Jewel of N'Zoth. Jewel of N'Zoth is more common in the Hunter class, and that's been a joy too. Right. Another epic, right? My favorite one that I've done is Grand Archivist. I believe that's its name. The 8 mana 4/7 mage minion. I took that to 12 with a Strike, and that guy has my
Sorry,
no
you cut
only
out. You've been
spells.
cutting out a little bit. What'd you say with what card?
Oh, really? Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
With triple flame strike,
Uh-huh.
that was a fun experience. I went 12 with that pretty easily.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of little things like that where I'm finding ways to build strategy decks or theme decks that are built around a card
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to just build a generic good curve whatever deck.
I will say that if you would have told me if you would have told me before it happened that they were going to make epics like the same rarity as all the cards, I would have maybe been a little bit apprehensive, frankly, if you told me that before I did the experience of it. But now after playing with it for a while, I have to say that it's an enjoyable experience because one, like you were saying, we were talking about this in our pre-co-op we did, that not all the epic cards are actually, doesn't mean that just because it's epic doesn't mean it's a great card. And I'm finding that all these cards that I never got to play with, there's the Fellsteel Executioner and Demon Hunter. Is it a little bit overpowered? Like it's really good, but like there's cards that I just never really got to play with. And now I'm getting to play with them because they're not locked behind the rarity thing. And I'm finding a lot of joy with it. Plus, like I said, it opens up. There's just more strategies. Like, for instance, Guardian Animals, just that card alone. It's too much of a card that requires way too much synergy to make it work. But now that you know it's coming, you can basically be like, well, sure, yeah, I'd like for instance, I will sometimes think earlier in a draft, like when I see a, what do you call it? The Cleave 5-mana 4/6. When I see, what's that card
Oh
called?
yeah, Lake Thresher.
So when I see a Thresher early on against maybe a
Hearthstone.
slightly better card, I will a lot of times look at thinking about taking that and take it and then later get rewarded. And I don't think it's terrible. It just changes the way you look at some drafts a little bit and
Yeah.
your drafting strategies. And I actually really like that. I have to say I was wrong about that. I thought my thoughts again, if you told me beforehand that it was coming, I would have been like, oh, I don't know if that's a good idea. But playing with it and getting to, like, for instance, now Recombobulator, I see that in every couple, like 3 or 4 drafts now, and it's a really fun card. And there's now way more synergies with it than there ever was back then, where it's good. Rusty Raider, there's just so many kind of like rush cards that are really good, or Fungal Mancer, stuff like that. Just a lot of good hits on it now, and it's really fun. So yes, this epic thing has been a little bit better than I thought. And even like I said, that's one of the reasons. If you look at and this is what I want to talk about, and this is the way I knew that epics were a thing for sure. If you look at the tier list, so you pull up HS Replay, let me pull it up real fast so I have it in front of me real fast. So if you look at the top 3 classes, it's Druid, Warrior, and Demon Hunter. And they all have, maybe even a Warrior doesn't, but they all have insanely good epic cards. And the classes that have bad epics, like Paladin, now they have Coghammer, but that's about it. I don't think there's any, like the ones that have, and Warlock usually has a lot of bad epics. So the classes that have good epics are the classes that are actually near the top right now. So
Huh. I didn't think of it. I didn't even realize that, but that makes complete sense once you say it.
yeah, I mean, again, I am not a number cruncher, so I'm not going to back it up with some kind of data, but I'm just giving a general feel when I thought about the epics and then I looked at the list. And the first thing that made sense to me was Druid's number 1, and Druid's epic list is just insane. They have Marsh Hydra. They have they have Druid of the Plains. They have the 6-mana 2/2 rushes, the one we talked about, Runic Carvings. They've just got like, they have Survival of the Fittest. They have Guardian Animals, which is now kind of a good card, surprisingly. So like, and like it just keeps going. And then Demon Hunter, for instance, I think Demon Hunter got tuned down, but then of course their epic list, you could actually argue that their epic list is actually better than Druid's.
I think it's the best epic list. I don't think it's close. I mean,
I
one of the
agree.
things one of the things we talked about on the Grand Arena tournament was just how good all those epics were. It made it hard to distinguish which one was the real problem because they had so very many of them that were good.
Yeah. I'd have to really study it up and down to like look at the other mid classes, but it's a very interesting discussion. And like I said, you need to, when you're drafting, like we're saying, know the epic cards, because it is true that a lot of epic cards in the past have been cards that required some synergy, so it kind of made them like not as really viable. But now, like I said, the Guardian Animals is the best example I can think of that I've really changed the way I look at that card because of the fact that it's more available.
Yeah, and for me, it's Jewel of N'Zoth because I play so much
Oh, for sure.
Hunter, but yeah.
Yeah. And if we're talking a little bit about the meta, we'll move a little bit of discussion, just the general meta. The one thing that's interesting is, Druid, Warrior, Demon Hunter, and Rogue are all above 50%. So they're kind of like the top 4. The next list of cards is Priest, Mage, Hunter, and Shaman. And I would argue from my experience that all the classes, I know that win rates of those middle classes is a little bit below, like from like 49 to 46 or something. But, excuse me, I'm actually finding, for maybe because I'm a top player or whatever, like I'm finding pretty good success with all the classes from 1 to 8. Now, I haven't really played a lot of Paladin or Warlock, so I don't really have much experience to go off of. But I definitely think all those other classes are very viable right now, even though their win rates may not show it.
Warlock has a lot of cards that don't do anything in Arena. There are those kind of cards that, like things like Dark Portal or all these things that just kind of don't do the right thing in this format. Or there's the 0 mana spell that gets you a 5/5 if you sacrifice a minion and have 5 minions in play. Just like random crap like that doesn't really fit in an average deck. So what I end up finding with both of those classes, Paladin and Warlock, is I end up with some cards that are good but not incredible. And then a bunch of cards that don't really fit into a specific theme. And like we've been talking, it's been all the time theme decks or decks with a plan, decks with a strategy. And that doesn't exist in those two classes right now. I've drafted Paladin and haven't seen a lot of Seed Cloud Bucklers either. So that's kind of an issue. I've not been finding that card. Maybe I don't know how that works, but I just haven't seen it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably what's going on. Also, there's a lot of ways to clear boards, and those are two classes that depend heavily on their minions on board, right? So there's still Flame Strikes, Expendable Performers, Cycle of Hatreds. Warrior has all of its many ways to AoE, and Brawl is back in class, and Shaman has multiple AoEs right now. And like it has 3 good ones with Tidal Wave's not that great, but Lightning Storm and the scaling level up card that deals 2, 3, 4 damage to a minion and adjacent minion, plus Storm Strike is kind of an AoE card as well. Like all these classes have different ways to clear multiple minions, and that is just really hard for a class like Warlock to deal with. They need those minions in play so they can buff them, or so they can push damage or pressure you so they can use their hero power in the case of Warlock. So I think that's probably why they're not on top. They don't well in deck. If you're just getting stats off Scrap Imp, you're not really producing much.
Yeah. It's so I've been playing. I've the only class that I haven't got like offered very much that I've been wanting to play is Warrior. But I've even been having fun. Priest actually had some nerfs that happened this week. If you guys weren't paying attention, Renew moved to 2. We can bring this up real fast. Renew moved to 2 mana. Apotheosis moved to a 1/2 buff with Lifesteal, which actually in some ways, I guess, well, it's good for Arena because it still allows it to be a late game card if you're now, but now it's not really good to play on curve. So it does kind of give it a place in Arena that I don't think it's unplayable, but I do, and it's still good to discover. But I think it's less punishing for the overall player base because you're not going to get like blown out with it early now too as well. So
100%.
Yeah, so that's been interesting. They also got Gibberer got buffed, it got nerfed to a two mana 1/1. I just thought that was so funny. Poor Jibs.
So Gibberer is one of those cards I've played a ton of. Gibberer. It's one of my favorite cards to draft. Not anymore. I will never draft it. I don't think anymore as a 2 mana card, but as a 1 mana card, there were games I would spend most of my mana on Gibberer throughout the course of the game, and you just because the worst thing that happens is you end the turn and you have all your cards in your hand, and then you actually play Hearthstone again. I love that card.
I tell you what, I have my best memories with the original Gibberer. And I have it. I think I still have it saved somewhere on my computer. There was a game I'll never forget the number. I only had 1 Gibberer in my deck. I played my Gibberer on turn 1, and by the end of the game, I had 27 Gibberers.
Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't realize it was the Druid Gibberer they changed. I thought it was the original.
No, the original is the same.
That makes way more sense. Oh, good. I still get to play that card. Okay, never mind. I'm glad the Druid Gibberer is gone. That one was stupid. I did not like
Yeah,
playing
I mean,
against that
it's not
card.
a druid card, but it or is it? No, is it a
It is.
wait?
It is. Yeah.
Oh, it's a
The one
druid
that the
card.
Spellburst one. Yeah, the Spellburst one's a Druid card.
Oh,
Wow,
I
we
guess.
really don't know how to play this game that we love so much, do we? We don't know what the
Well,
cards are called.
it's
We don't know
funny.
what
It's
they
funny.
do.
I would say that 2 years ago, I absolutely knew every single card for sure.
Yeah.
Like I knew every card from every set. I knew all the costs. Like I never made mistakes. I can even remember every single name. But it's now gotten to a point where there's so many sets. It's like it's actually really hard now.
It is.
But I will tell you, when you play, I'm not sure if when like I guess there's more Demon Hunter sets if they're gonna finally get rid of, because right now what's been happening with the arena rotations, if you haven't been paying attention, is they've basically been doing the standard sets plus 2 wild sets for a while. Now that's not necessarily the worst thing. It's just that the Outland cards have been here for so long, the dormants, and I'm just sick of. I don't actually hate Spellburst or Corrupt as mechanics, but them being both of those sets being in arena at the same time is just really annoying to me.
So here's an interesting thing that's happening in Magic the Gathering. It's nothing like before. Magic, people have the same experience right now. There's a set that's way too powerful, and so people have been playing the exact same cards for 2 years, and they're very tired of it because those cards have just dominated the meta. In fact, Magic players are so tired of that they have created their own format called Standard 2022. And so it's they took out the sets that will be rotated out, and they're just playing with less sets than they've had. It's so odd. I've never seen them do that. But I mean, they played it so much that it's become a supported format on.
Yeah.
Like Wizards of the Coast had to like make it into a real thing. So I don't think we can do that because there isn't really a way to make a playing queue for that.
Right.
But they could do it in Arena, and I wish they would, because that would be a wonderful experience to not sit against an imprisoned Vile Fiend, 4 out of your 10 games or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I'm actually, it's been a little up and down, but I have to say that I've been enjoying Arena. I think I've learned that I need to play, if I'm not playing Arena quite as often, I enjoy it more. I do really enjoy it. I just don't play. I play like a run a day. When I used to be playing like 3 runs a day, it got stale too fast for me. But I think with the mini sets they've added, it's really been good for an arena perspective, because with the mini set additions, what it does is basically there's never a chance for them to basically be like, oh, we're going to forget the arena rotation, because now they're kind of on a schedule. They have expansion release, we rotate. We have a mini set release, they rotate. And it's good because now we have this kind of like expected rotation that's happening. And like I said, Arena's in a good place. We talked about the new mechanic last week with tradable, which I think is going to be really fun for Arena. I'm really excited. I hope there's some really juicy ones that they haven't. I'm sure there's some they haven't revealed. So I'm very, very excited about that. So, is there anything else you want to talk about, Kellen?
Let's see. I've just been having fun doing what I want and not worrying so much. It kind of feels like we're just waiting for a set right now. And that's one of my favorite times. New sets when they release are my favorite times, of course, because you just get to experiment and try new things. And whenever we get a new arena rotation, it's super fun for that first week. And you know me, I'm a dual class lover, so I love October. But
dual class is the best.
That was my best finish on a leaderboard, was dual class.
Nice.
But I also enjoy just that last couple weeks right before the new set is released, when nothing you're doing is going to matter that much. I'm not really worried about. I won't start my leaderboard run until next month if I decide to do it, or until the Stormwind release. So it's just kind of a nice calm period where we can experiment, play, have fun. It's not as stressful as the middle of the season, when you're trying to finish your 30 runs. You've already played the set for 25 runs, and you're just trying to get there. So
I have to admit, I never really thought about what you just said and you kind of put it in perspective, but it's true. There's kind of like a rhythm if you're like a top player or someone that really cares about Arena, and the first 2 weeks after a rotation, even the first 3 weeks, is just so much fun. And then usually they have like a micro adjustment right around the time period where that experimentation ends. And then it's like another experimentation while you're figuring out the new stuff. But you're right. Like by the time we get to this stage right now, where it's 2 weeks away from an expansion release, we've pretty much seen everything that can happen. We've learned all the combos that are fun, and we've kind of experienced a lot. But now it's kind of like, well, you know, like for instance, for right now would be the time where it's like, you know, I just didn't really play Paladin this, because sometimes you just kind of get in things where you like something so much. Like I've loved Warrior for like the last 2 or 3 months, and every time I see Warrior, I just take it. So like, but now it's like, man, I really haven't played Paladin or Shaman or even Hunt. Actually, one class I haven't played a lot is like Mage and Paladin. So now it's like a period where it's like, oh, you know, I haven't really played these. And so when I see them, it's like, screw it. I'm just going to take them and just, I'm probably missed out. So let's try it. And it doesn't feel right. It doesn't really feel like there's a lot of pressure. And then sometimes you get lucky and you realize like, man, I kind of missed out. This was actually kind of a fun class, you know? So
this is the time of the year, tire the decks. So since I didn't do a leaderboard run this month or this season, and I'm not planning on doing as soon as the new set comes out. Did I get cut out?
You cut out for like a good part that's there. You're good. You might want to repeat what you said.
Oh, well, I didn't do a run for leaderboard in the last section, but I made next section. So this is the time when I'm just going to retire all the boring decks that aren't interesting. I retired a Warlock deck this morning at 1 win because I was just like, you know what? I want to play something else. And that's where I'm at right now, and that's fine. I think it feels healthier, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, I have to say one thing though. So I did do the experiment of I've always, whenever I've done leaderboard attempts or been really thinking about it or trying to take the best classes, I've always tracked it. I've always tracked it every time. And this was the first time that I said to myself, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do the best I can on purpose. Like I'm going to be competitive, but I am not going to keep track of anything. And I'm going to kind of know how many. I basically only kept track of how many runs I did. I did track that just so I would know that I was over 30. But other than that, I really had no clue what my average was. And that helped me so much because when I get so much anxiety about the number, I just can't help it. It's the way I'm wired, you know? And by taking that away from myself, I played so much better. Like even when I was playing, I realized I'm like, so I'm probably going to keep doing that. Cause you know, gosh darn it, I'm too competitive. And when I have a number I can look at, I just focus on it too much. So, but you know, I'm really, by the way, everyone that hit the leaderboard that listens, I'm sure a lot of people that hit it do listen because a lot of those players care so much that they'll take time out of their week to listen to an arena podcast. So all you guys that made it, leave it in the comments if you made the leaderboard. And if there's anything, you know, we did that helped you get there or something, also tell us because we'd love to get feedback. So please, you know, help us out with that and let us know if you, you know, something even maybe you discovered that we didn't talk about. So I think that's going to do it for the 25th episode of the Kelcast. You can join us live every week, 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch, 5 p.m. Pacific, or you can download the podcast wherever you get them every Monday. You can also find me on Twitch where I stream pretty much daily, or you can go to YouTube or Twitter by searching Keludar, Keludar. So coming up in the next couple of weeks, I'll let you guys know where we're at. We will be doing, so next week, I'm not exactly sure. We're going to probably try to come up with something fun. Maybe we'll do something a little off coof next week, something a little like completely different. I don't know. I'll brainstorm. I have a couple things on the back burner I've been wanting to do, so maybe we'll pick out one of those things. And then the following week, depending on the cadence goes, we actually might have another podcast, and then we're going to have our set review. So usually in the middle of the week, we're going to have like a midweek podcast that we'll basically skip a podcast as we always do. But we'll do, as soon as the cards are all dropped, we will do a card review as fast as we possibly can to get that up for you guys.
Yep.
I think we did. People talked about it for the mini set review. We pretty much nailed every single one on that one, by the way.
We were good. We were good.
We did really good on that one. The set one, but the one before, I kind of missed the watch post thing. But I did nail the Sunwell Initiate. I got that one right. So, you know, whatever. Anyway, guys, that's been really fun. Make sure you tune in next week where, you know, we'll talk about what we said. And John Lux, thank you again for the music we use in the intro and the outro. It makes the podcast feel kind of real. It's been the Kelcast. We'll see you next week. All right. I got it this week, Kel.
Okay, what's going on?
My cat is fucking bionic, man. He's made it through it all. If you guys haven't been following, I wanted to talk about this because some people may not follow me on social media. If you want to know what I'm talking about in more depth, I would go to my Twitter because there's literally a full account of what's happened over the last week. But my cat has literally, I almost euthanized my cat twice this week. It was the most up and down week of my whole life. If you're listening now, we actually were late on releasing the last week's podcast because of this. But it's all been good. If you're listening, my cat's fine. But literally because of I'm going to tell one of the stories, which was we took him to the hospital. He wasn't eating for 2 days. He looked like he was just getting, he was moving towards death. He's diabetic and just seemed like it was the end. And they gave him fluids and they brought him into the room. And my wife was 8 hours away and it was really sad. And I'm holding my cat, Beaver. His name's Beaver. When I'm holding him in my arms and he's just kind of purring and looking up at me. And I kind of felt like it was time, right? And like the reason we weren't going to bring him home was he just wasn't eating. And if he's not going to eat, he's not going to make it, And my mom's, they said the nurses couldn't get Beaver to eat. And they left the room and my mom was like, that's bullshit. She's like, and you're not going to believe this. My mom pulls out of her purse. She pulls out, there's like this thing. It's basically cat Go-Gurts. It's basically these like kitty wet food in like a squeezy tube. She just pulls it right out of her she pulls it right out of her purse and just rips it open. And, Beaver basically, you have to understand, he wasn't like neurologically there. He could barely like move. He was just kind of purring sadly. And my mom gets this thing out. He starts eating. And within 5 minutes, he's eaten the whole thing. And then he stands up, which like shocked us. And he starts trying to wobble. He's like wobbling over to the sink because he wants to drink water. And then we talked to the vet and we're like, okay, we're going to take him home. And then my wife, so the plan was that my wife would get home the next day and be able to say goodbye. That's all our hope was, right? But over the last 4 days, Beaver has gone from not walking to today. He's like jumping up on the counter. He's meowing around. Like everything is returning. Like he started cleaning himself again today. Like every day he does something that he wasn't doing before. I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know how he's back.
He's back though.
But I'm
glad he's back.
He even survived a seizure yesterday or 2 days ago. And that was that's the second time that we thought he was dead. And we were calling to put him down again. And then he just popped up. So holy shit, he's back. So anyway, keep praying for him. But it's been a really crazy week for me. But we're just happy he's doing well. So anyway,
yeah, good to have him back home and healthier.
Yeah, he's happy now, so it's good.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Beaver. Don't fucking kill me because I almost killed you. Sorry. All right, bye.